Hello everybody and welcome back to One Nerd to Rule Them All. And in today's video, we're going to be looking into the question, can orcs have children? Are they created, or are they able to grow their numbers like those of dwarves, elves and men? So without further ado, let's get into the video. Anyone who knows the works of Tolkien will know of the orcs. Orcs were the primary soldiers of both the Dark Lord's armies, those of Morgoth and Sauron, as they were the most common servants and most loyal subjects during their attempted conquest of Middle-earth. Despite their importance, it is not known with certainty how the orcs came to be. It is rumoured that Morgoth invented them during the years of the trees of the First Age. Once Morgoth learned of the awakening of the elves in Cuivennen, he soon began sending evil spirits among them, who planted seeds of doubt against the Valar. It is rumoured that some of these elves were corrupted by a rider, if they strayed too far. And it was believed by the Eldar that these unfortunate elves were brought to Utumno, where they were cruelly tortured and twisted into orcs under Morgoth's reign. But this is just one version of their creation. In the Book of Lost Tales, Morgoth created orcs directly from the earth, breeding them from subterranean heat and slime. From this version of creation, their bodies were deformed and their hearts were made of granite. In Tolkien's description, the orcs were described as squat, broad, flat-nosed, sallow skin with wide mouths and slanted eyes. They were between 3 and 6 feet tall, but sometimes as tall as 7 feet. Their skin can come in a variety of different colours, such as black, grey, light tan, khaki or white. Their temperament is described as brutish, aggressive, and they were ugly, malevolent creatures. Despite the uncertainty of their origin, orcs somehow came to be during the First Age, as thousands of orcs were bred by Morgoth to participate in the battles of Beleriand. But how many of those were corrupted elves? Or were they in fact ungodly creatures created through other means, who bred in the ways that the free peoples of Middle-earth did? In Season 2, Episode 3 of The Rings of Power, we get a scene with Glug, one of the orcs under Adar at this time, conveying his reluctance to fight in the upcoming war against Sauron, after they have found a home in Mordor. Already this goes against Tolkien's legendarium of the orc species, as they were written as evil, bloodthirsty creatures. Instead, there is an attempt to portray them in a more sympathetic light. We then get a scene of Glug with his orc wife, and in her arms is a baby cooing at the couple. The show has received many mixed reviews for this scene in particular, and sparks a certain amount of controversy. It raises two main points. Can orcs have children? And why are these monstrous creatures suddenly being portrayed in a way that should elicit sympathy from the audience? Turning our attention to the first question of can orcs have children, the answer is yes. To answer this, we need look no further than the words of Tolkien himself. He explained that female orcs do in fact exist, but they do not play a large role in the lore surrounding the orcs. Instead, they were primarily used only for breeding. Tolkien confirms that orcs do in fact have families, and this can be seen in the characters of Azog the Defiler and his son Bolg. In fact, Azog had other sons, Hamon, who was Azog's youngest son, who was killed in the halls of Underbad, and Uru, Azog's eldest son, who was killed by Thorin during the Battle of Azunal Bazaar. Tolkien wrote about the orcs in an almost uncomfortable manner, alluding to the fact that they do in fact reproduce, but doesn't specifically specify how, instead choosing to describe the growing of this monstrous collection as they multiplied after the manner of the children of Iluvatar, implying that they multiplied in the same way of those of men and the elves of Middle-earth do. Why did it create such an uproar to see this in the Rings of Power? Some fans of Tolkien have nothing but bad things to say about the Amazon series The Rings of Power for a multitude of reasons. From its inaccuracies to Tolkien's legendarium, to the way they have changed or modified certain well-known and beloved characters to fit the narrative, and the inconsistencies of the storyline that they tried to create anyway. Although this scene did not have any effect on me personally, I can understand why it did cause some disturbance. But despite this attempt at humanising the orcs, it ends in vain, as in the end of the second season, it brings the Orcs to Sauron's side as the new Dark Lord against their Lord Father, Adar, as they take his life. The Rings of Power is taking the time to try and portray the Orcs in a way that would elicit sympathy from the audience. Through the creation of the character of Adar, we see a father figure to whom the Orcs look up to and even call their Lord Father. We see community within this group when they make their home in Mordor, and of course we see the Orc family. It is impossible to say if Orcs are 100% evil. Tolkien himself even alluded to this. In fact, Tolkien changed his mind about the nature of Orcs over time. Originally, they were constructs of Morgoth, and their sole purpose was to carry out his evil will. Tolkien initially wrote his stories with the intention of Orcs being monstrous idiots for whom blindly followed their leaders. He did this so the audience did not need to feel sympathy for these creatures, but he also believed that evil was incapable of true creation, so this origin story became incompatible with his worldview. He later suggested that Orcs were beings whom Morgoth corrupted and transformed, making them tragic victims rather than purely evil monsters. This created a dissonance between the way he discussed Orcs in theory and the way he actually treated them in his books. Found in a letter to a bookstore manager, Peter Hastings, Tolkien nearly referred to the Orcs as irredeemably bad, but corrected himself that no one was truly irredeemable. He said, and I quote, "Even Orcs become part of the world, which is God's and ultimately good." This brings us to the end of this video. A little bit shorter than some of my other content, but I wanted to do a deep dive into this question because I found it interesting. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to leave any suggestions down below of anything you would like me to discuss in the future. Anyway, that'll be it from me. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye for now.